first time in history they've ever had a live television broadcast from top of Mount Kosciuszko, the highest peak in Australia. It was a really big deal, except I'd never been mountain climbing before, and I didn't know it was going to be cold up there. So anyway, I got to the top of Mount Kosciuszko, and it is absolutely freezing. And the whole Channel 10 News broadcast, Tim Bailey, our weatherman, he's building up his interview and he's going, "Ladies and gentlemen, coming up we've got Khoa, Young Australian of the Year, stay tuned." And meanwhile, it was just getting colder and colder and colder. And finally, at 5 minutes before 6, it comes time to interview me. By this stage, it's absolutely freezing. And Tim grabs a microphone and he goes, "So Khoa, tell us, what's it like being the Young Australian of the Year this year?" And he gives me the microphone and I go, my mouth was frozen. First time in history, live a television broadcast from top of Mount Kosciuszko, and there is silence. Finally, I managed to speak and I go, "I'm sorry if you can't understand me, but it's bloody freezing up here." Later on, Mum said I should have said bloody on TV. Incidentally, because it was so cold, I had to borrow a jacket for me to wear for this broadcast, and it was the only spare jacket they could find. And yes, it's a woman's jacket. 25 years on, some things just hadn't changed. On another occasion, I found myself being picked up at Canberra Airport. And as I leave the airport, they said to me, "Khoa, do you mind if today we pick you up with someone else?" And I said, "Sure, no worries." So I jump into the back of his car and I look over, and sitting next to me is a quite famous Australian tennis player. So I thought to myself, being a famous Australian tennis player, I'm going to tell him my tennis story. You see, ladies and gentlemen, many, many years ago, before I ever wanted to become a film or a theatre maker, or before I ever wanted to become a football player or anything like that, guess what I wanted to be? Australia's #1 tennis player. And I tell you why. Many years ago, Anne and I were first sent off to this new school, and all of a sudden, sports was made compulsory. And there were 2 sports for us to choose from. The first was cricket, and the second was tennis. Mum looks at cricket, and for us to play cricket, she'll have to buy us the pads and the spiky shoes, and she goes, "Too expensive." For us to play tennis, all she'd have to do is buy us a tennis racket. So she goes, "Khoa, tennis is cheaper, tick, you're playing tennis." The next week, she goes off to Bankstown Sports Centre, she buys me a $29 wooden tennis racket. You know, one of those old school wooden ones with the really small heads that weighed a ton? She bought one of those and she goes, "Here you go, Khoa, good luck at tennis this year." And I still remember the next Tuesday afternoon really clearly, because it was Tuesday afternoon of the tennis trials. And there were 2 players in front of me. The first was Matthew, and the coach goes, "Matthew, step onto the court." Matthew steps on. The coach goes, "Matthew, I'm going to throw you the ball. I want you to hit the ball back to me." Matthew goes, "Sure." The coach throws